I should have died at 18. If I hadn't met God. I will never forget that night. The night I turned 18. It was raining like the sky had split open. The streets were deserted. The yellow streetlights of the city did nothing to soften the blade-like cold of the wind. I walked in a soaked hoodie, hands trembling, not from the cold, but from fear, from despair. I had reached my limit. My name is Elias. Before that night I was just an ordinary boy. If ordinary meant being addicted to video games, dropping out of school, secretly stealing my mom's money to buy skins in Valorant, and having already attempted to end my life twice. I used to believe I was born forsaken by God. I grew up in a household with little love. My parents divorced when I was 8. My mom worked 3 jobs, and my dad vanished without a trace. I lived with my grandmother, the only person who still prayed every night, but I never believed in her God. I used to watch her kneel and beg, "Please lead the boy down the right path." I laughed. I knew I had no path. I was a mistake. At 16, when I was caught stealing from a supermarket for the first time, I lost the last thing I had left: my self-respect. The police didn't send me to juvenile detention because my mother came to the station and begged them, crying right in front of the desk. But the way she looked at me that day made me want to die. From then on I drowned in video games, light drugs, and casual flings just to forget myself. I pretended to live, until the day I turned 18. That night, I left home with no intention of returning. I had written a letter for my mom. In my backpack were some pills, a knife, and an old photo of me as a child with my grandma. I planned to sit on the edge of the city's highest bridge and end everything. But strangely, when I arrived at the bridge, someone was already there. A man in a black coat, no umbrella, no phone, just standing with his back to me, staring down at the swirling river below. The rain hit him hard, but he didn't move. I hesitated, but I walked closer. I thought he was like me, another broken soul. I said quietly, "Are you here to jump too?" He turned around. His face was disturbingly calm. Not sad, not tired, not in pain. Just a look that froze me in place. He wasn't old, not young. One of those faces you wouldn't remember if you looked away. He simply said, "You shouldn't be here tonight." I scoffed. "Where else would I be?" He stepped closer, his eyes never leaving mine. "If you take one more step, it won't just be you who's lost." I snapped, "Who are you? A cop? A pastor? An angel sent to save me?" He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "No. I'm just someone who once stood exactly where you're standing." I clenched the knife in my hoodie pocket. "And what stopped you from jumping?" He smiled faintly. "Someone called my name. Someone I thought didn't exist." He said, "You can choose to end, or to begin." I chose to begin. I stayed silent. The rain kept falling. The lights stayed dim. "What's your name?" he asked. I didn't want to answer. But somehow, I said it anyway. "Elias," he nodded. "Elias, the name of a prophet. Did you know that?" I stared. "A prophet?" "The prophet Elijah, used by God to break the silence of an entire nation. A man who thought he was alone, but was never truly alone, because God was always there." I laughed, this time almost hysterically. God? Where was he when I was abandoned? Where was he when I begged to be forgiven? Where is he now, when I'm about to jump off this damn bridge? He didn't get angry. Didn't argue. Just looked at me, with eyes I had never seen in anyone before. Eyes of someone who knew the depths of darkness, but also knew the light. Then he said, "He's standing right here, Elias, waiting for you to choose." I don't remember how I left that bridge. The man, no name, no trace, was gone when I turned back. Only me, my soaking shoes, and a voice echoing in my mind. "You can choose to end, or to begin." I wandered aimlessly through cold streets until my feet brought me somewhere I swear I'd never seen before. An old church, hidden in a neighborhood abandoned since the 1980s. The door was unlocked. I pushed open the heavy wooden door. It groaned like it tore space apart. Inside was pitch black, except for dim light filtering through cracked stained glass windows. A crooked cross hung on the wall, covered in dust. I didn't know why I entered, but as soon as my foot stepped on the cracked tiles of the aisle, a voice echoed from the far end of the church. "Elias!" I froze. No one had called me by my real name in years. No one knew I was here. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice trembling. No reply. Only the sound of wind, and the scent of rotting wood, and, strangely, a faint smell of incense, as if someone had just prayed. I walked toward the old altar. On it was a Bible, worn and cracked. When I opened it, my heart stopped. The page was already open, not by chance, but to John 3:16. "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life." I stood frozen. Then I knelt. Not because I was forced, not from guilt, but because, for the first time in my life, I felt that someone was truly listening. Not a person, not a priest, but him, the one I thought had forgotten me long ago. "If you're real, please, don't leave me alone anymore," I whispered, and I cried. I stayed in that church until almost sunrise. No phone, no alerts, no one calling, just silence, but no longer frightening. It felt like someone was sitting beside me, saying nothing, yet more present than any living person. I stepped out of the church as dawn broke, and from that moment things started to change. Not loudly, not with miracles, just small things that couldn't be explained. I found my grandmother, who had been out of touch for years, because of an old postcard that fell from a book. A childhood friend, now a believer, invited me to a small group meeting, even though I never told anyone I believed. My mom suddenly called for the first time in weeks, and only asked, "Are you okay?" I didn't hear God with my ears, but I saw him in every second chance I thought I'd lost. A week later, I returned to the old bridge. Not to die, but to confirm. I searched for the man I met that night, asked around. No one had seen him. No one ever knew someone stood on that bridge during the storm that night. I began to believe, maybe he wasn't human. Maybe he was sent, for just one purpose, to save someone. Me. I started to live again. I quit gaming, deleted my account, logged off social media for a while. I started praying. Not perfectly, just honestly. At first I still got angry, still yelled at God like a child throwing a tantrum. But I realized he didn't leave, didn't judge, didn't reject. I joined group meetings, studied the Bible, listened to testimonies from people who once thought they were trash. I realized I wasn't alone. I wasn't the first to think about ending it all, and I wouldn't be the last to be pulled back from the edge. God gave me a path, not paved with roses, but leading to the light. And I began to share my story. First with a friend, then at a group meeting. Until one day a pastor asked me to share in front of the whole church, about 200 people. I trembled on that stage, but when I told the story, the rain, the bridge, and the invisible voice, I saw people cry. Not because of me, but because God is still working, through those who seem like throwaways. Like me. Today, I'm 20. 2 years since that night. I'm not a pastor, not a missionary, not anyone important, but I'm alive. I'm studying psychology to help people like the one I used to be. I make videos about my journey, not for fame, but because I believe. If someone out there is thinking about ending it, maybe they'll stop, just because they heard this story. I'm not perfect. I still stumble, still feel weak sometimes, but I know one thing. I'm no longer alone, because he, the one who called me that rainy night, is still leading the way.